Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Talkin Kop. My name is Ashley. I'm here with my friends Kev and Chris, and we are here to talk about what Josh Williams has eloquently put on Twitter as the most miserable unbeaten run of all time. The score just finished 2-2 at Fulham at Craven Cottage. Bit of a crazy ending to what was yet again another lackluster Liverpool performance. I'm going to try to kind of walk us through. There's not that much to walk through for the first half, but I'm going to try to walk us through. But before I do that, Kev, I'm going to come to you. What's your initial reaction after seeing the final whistle blow there?
It's fucking mad. That is just mad. It was a shite game. It would have been highway robbery if we'd have got away with it. And you seen that goal at the end. I'd back Allison with anyone in the world taking a shot from that distance any day of the week, twice on Sundays. And he just bought the lotto ticket and won. And fair play, because it's a hell of a hit. We'll get into the what's and whereas about it and the lack of pressure and what have you, and how bad we were defensively for it. But fuck me, that's an absolute. You'll be seeing that goal for a long time. It was an unbelievable hit.
Goal of the season contender for sure.
It's what Fulham absolutely deserved. Fulham deserved the point for the way they nullified us, but at the same time, we were so fucking bad.
We did so not deserve 3 points for the way that we nullified ourselves.
Yeah, I said to Chris before you came on, there was too many square pegs and round holes in that lineup from the start. And we were slow against Leeds. In that first half today, we were pedestrian beyond belief, mainly because everyone was taking an extra touch, looking up to see who they're going to pass to, because nobody was in the position they're normally in, and nobody was making runs that you'd expect them to make. It was the most, I think someone put it in there, it was timid. It was like, here you go, lads. There's 11 of you. I've picked 11 of you. There's 2 centre-backs as a keeper. There's 2 full-backs. The rest of you just figure it out. And you'll be fine. You're experienced players. Go and work it out yourselves. You may as well have just said that, because the way that first half was playing out, you've seen players popping up in different positions all over the pitch all the time. It's no wonder we couldn't build anything cohesive. There was no patterns of play that you could look at and say, yeah, I recognize that as a Liverpool style of play. It was painful. It was so fucking bad. And to top it off, look, yeah, we're unbeaten in however many games, but Josh is right. It is the most boring.
It's 8 runs. 8 runs unbeaten.
8 games unbeaten, and I swear to God, I'm going glare by the fucking game.
Yeah. For context, it's 5 wins in 15 games, which makes it sound a lot worse. So it's all about the spin that you want to put on it.
Jono, my point wasn't about the striker, mate. I'm telling you now. I'll get onto this. All right, go to Chris, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the striker.
We'll talk about the lineups in a second. So, Chris, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Kev. What's your initial reaction upon the final whistle of that game?
Oh, fuck's sake. Fed up. That was as bad as the fucking Leeds game, which was boring as fuck. I sat in the ground freezing my bollocks off, and honestly, nobody in that ground against Leeds ever at one point went, oh, we're going to win this. We're going to win this. There's going to be a rally. Never came. We got what we fucking deserved, which was we were lucky to get a point. Because let's be honest, it's boring, slow, passive, negative shit football. It will get you fucking nowhere. And what this is going to do for the manager is you're just delaying the inevitable. Because if Liverpool want to keep him beyond this season, he needs to wake the fuck up and get the team playing properly. Because this is not how it is. You can call it entitled, you can call it what it is. But since November, we all said it, the run from November to now, up to the Arsenal game, on paper was the kindest run you could be given, where you could build some momentum, build some confidence up. We have dropped 11 points against Forest at home, Leeds home and away, Fulham away, Sunderland at home. It's not fucking good enough. So, and listen, there'll be loads saying slot in, slot out, whatever. Look, the manager's not going to go. He's going to.
I haven't seen a single slot in. That's for sure.
Yeah. There are ones who there's toxic positivity as well as toxic negativity who just think nothing's the manager's fault. And there'll be some that think everything's the manager's fault. The truth's in the middle. I'll be amazed he's there beyond this summer, because that style of football don't cut it. And yes, listen, we can talk about what happened in the summer, which is a big factor. We can talk about all the new players we brought in, which we all said at the time, bringing that many new players in will take time to adapt. And we have got players missing. No Ekitike today, lost, because he's our only real proper attacking threat. But you cannot tell me that this manager is getting the best out of the resources he's got to his name. He fucking isn't. And I'm sick to death of him consistently taking players off who are playing well. Jones was our best passer of the ball today. McAllister was dog shit. And I like McAllister, but he was dog shit today. What did he do? Took Jones. We've got no pace on the side. We sat deeper and deeper, and he clearly was deciding he wanted a 1-1. And we thought he nicked it. We thought he nicked it 2-1. But if you're going to sit in a 1-1, throw Rio one. At least he's quick. At least you can just ping it down the line and make it difficult. Even Frimpong on the other side. Give you some pace. Chiesa is quicker distance, but he's not got that explosive pace that me and Kev were talking about. He has got that explosive first 2-3 yards like he had 4 or 5 years ago. It's just crap. And look, I try and be level-headed. I try and it's hard doing these shows, especially when you don't win. But I'm just fed up. And there's nothing about today that made me go, oh, I can see shining lights, or I can see how we're going to improve. I can see how things are going to better. I watched this going, we're playing as poorly now as that run when we lost 6 in a row. The fact we're unbeaten, I think, is because we're playing sides who, quite frankly, aren't great and probably weren't good to punish us. Trust me, we play this against the Emirates, it'll be a cricket score and it'll be fucking embarrassing. I'm quite sadly fed up. I understand taking Verts off because of limitations in the squad. I don't think he's got a full 90 in him, and it's a flag. That's fine. But in general, I think the manager has just set us up to be passive and boring, and too many senior players need to grow a pair of bollocks and put the body on the line a little bit more. Because for that equaliser, Kev's right, it's the best hit he'll probably ever hit in his life. No Premier League footballer should have a ball near the edge of the box and no one within 10 yards of him. And they all fucking watch it. Oh, it's fucking good hit, that, isn't it? Yeah, of course it is. Because at some point, a Premier League football can hit it. As someone in the put it earlier, it was like Tarkowski. Yeah, Tarkowski has got 2 of them against Liverpool. Because you just watch him hit it and go, fuck, I hope he doesn't hit it well. Why don't you run out at him? Let it hit you. Because guys, if it takes any sort of deflection, either the keeper saves it or it goes wide. Because it's the most precision hit you'll hit. It's crap. It's rubbish. I think the reason he's still on the job is because we're still 4th. That is the only reason now I think he's still here. And I think this is feeling very Man United. Until we get to a point where top 4 feels unlikely or is under threat, that is the only time we'll react. I think on the pitch and off the pitch, we're just reactive. There's nothing creative about Liverpool at the moment. It's a shit watch. It's a boring watch. I'm glad the game's over now because I don't have to worry about watching Liverpool now until Monday.
I mean, it definitely feels like Liverpool are in some sort of hellish holding pattern at the moment, where there is very little to get excited about. Kev, we said we were going to go to the lineups, so we're going to go to the lineups. We heard quite late that Hugo Ekitike had felt his hamstring somewhere in between the last game and this game. Doesn't look like it's too serious. It's called slight, but we know that with Slot, that could mean anything. That could mean he's back for Arsenal. That could mean he's out for 2 months. I have no idea what the severity is. The fact of the matter is that at some point he hit the red zone and he tweaked his hamstring. So there was no Ekitike. I'm going to run through the lineup. We had Allison, Virgil, Konate, Kirkez, and Bradley in the back. We had McAllister, Jones, and Gravenberch in the middle. And then we had some combination of Verts, Szoboszlai, and Gakpo, who was largely the striker, so to speak, loosely. Talk me through your thoughts upon initially seeing that lineup, where you felt like you would have made changes, what you felt like worked and didn't work.
Well, to Jono's point there, because Jono made the point earlier about who would you play as striker. The only striker you can play with that lineup is Cody Gakpo, and he hasn't played up front in the Premier League
since Klopp's very last game.
Yeah, Klopp's very last game. But needs must, there was nobody else. Once the news started coming through that Hugo wasn't going to be involved, it's like, okay, who has played up front? And you're talking, okay, it's going to be either Cody or it's going to be Chiesa. It was going to be one of those two. So he went with Cody. That's fine. The only thing that really worried me was that every midfielder that we have was on the pitch. And to see a kickoff, the first thing that I noticed within 5 seconds was Curtis Jones out in the left wing. Curtis Jones hasn't played left wing since he was a youth player, or when he was breaking through the side. So that's one square peg in a round hole. Dominic Szoboszlai out on the left wing and hanging out on the right wing and hanging out on the right, square peg round hole. But in fairness, I don't mind him being in that position because he can be effective from there. Florian Wirtz in the 10. Look, I think we've seen the best out of him when he's been playing on the left. And I thought, at least if he's out on the left, he can get on the ball and commit players and run at players. Where if that's going to be your 11, I'd have put Wirtz out on the left. I'd have put Jones back into the 6 and McAllister in the 10. And I don't like McAllister there. I just think it works better because I think Wirtz, you get more out of him on the left with Jones and Kirk as a trio, especially if you're trying to pull a back 5 into places where they don't want to go, especially since that's the first time Fulham have played a back 5 this season at home in the league. So, yeah, they've played it away a few times, but it's not a formation they tend to play at home. And on the Fulham's right, our left, Timothy Castagna is an experienced wing-back, but he isn't the quickest. And the centre-back who was inside him also isn't the quickest at turning. He's pretty immobile. So there was space there to be able to create overloads and look to get in behind. It didn't happen once all through the first half. We never looked like threatening to get in behind him. When we did, I really felt sorry for Gakpo because the amount of times that he made runs off of their centre-backs, looking for balls over the top, down the sides, and they never came. It's a wonder he didn't just stop running in the end because what's the point? If the ball isn't going to come, you can't do anything about it. And we were so pedestrian and slow with the build-up because everyone was trying to feed it through the middle where they were strongest. And one thing I suppose Conor Bradley on the other side, unlike Frimpong, who is good on the overlap and gets out wide, Bradley is better underlapping. He's better at making that underlapping run like he did for the goal. But Szoboszlai wants to occupy that space. So you're creating log jams there. It never made any sense. The lineup didn't make any sense, and the way he set them up, it didn't make sense to me. How could he have changed it? He could have definitely started Rio. There's no reason why he couldn't. The kid sat on the bench. He hasn't played a meaningful game in ages. He's fit. He's young. He's fearless. Give him a game. What's the worst that can happen?
Well, Chelsea keep throwing on an 18-year-old with half an hour to go, and he's causing problems because he's fast. So what harm could he do?
You get players that young for me, and they're fearless. You always see it with kids, 16, 17, 18,
Sterling was like that.
Yeah.
We threw him
Get him on the ball. Get him on the ball and get him running at players. You'll get an hour out of him. But at least if you get an hour out of him, you could have dropped Jones into a 6, and you could have left McAllister on the bench as an option to come on for any of the midfielders, depending on where you wanted to address something. But they didn't want. He didn't go that way. And look, whatever his aversion is to playing Rio, he wants to keep him in and around the squad for experience, but he doesn't want to give him any minutes. He wants to keep him around for training and all of that. But I'm telling you now, Rion Gamoa is going to go to England under 21s. He's going to be talking to players who are playing regular football, and he's going to be sat there twiddling his thumbs saying, well, yeah, I'm on the bench at Liverpool, aren't I? Fantastic. But I want to play, and he's going to start itching soon. And we've seen it with young players before. Raheem Sterling is a prime example when he left.
Well, Rio is a player that did that.
Yeah.
He itched and he moved.
He left for the project that we were selling him. And I'm sure there is a plan for him to be more integrated next year. But at the same time, we have a need now. And our goal, Wirtz's goal, came from somebody running at players and committing players to them. That's his game. That's his forte. That's his strength. If you could have got an hour of him doing that, I'm sure we'd be talking about a different game. But look, Arne Slot set him up in a way that I'm looking at that 11, and now I'm just looking at the screen. I'm like, I don't know what he expected them to do, because they'll keep the ball. and they'll work triangles, and they'll look to try to create a perfect goal. But it was so frustrating to watch it because everyone watching today could see the space. The Fulham weren't defending on their 18-yard line. They were 10 yards further forward. That ball, I guarantee you, if Liverpool defended that way, that high line, Anderson, the Fulham centre-back, would be looking to ping balls in over the top of that all day, every day, looking for wingers to run onto, looking for Raul Jimenez to hold it up and try to bring others into play. We did it in the second half because they must have seen it on the halfway line and told them, start playing that ball over the top because it's on. How can the players not see it? Either they're playing to instruction and they're doing as they're told, keep possession, don't take risks, recycle it if you're unsure. And that seems to be what they're doing. That seems to be what's been drilled into them.
It feels robotic, doesn't it? It feels like they're almost like being told no creativity. Just play the plan. Don't move from the plan. And generally with the best sides, there is a plan. You know, if you look at Pep Guardiola, they're one of the most structured sides you'll ever see. But there is room for creativity and flair when you need it. I mean, look, Avo's point here, suppose we didn't buy a left winger because we didn't want to hamper Rio's involvement. Problem is, if that's true, we've got a manager who doesn't want to play him. And one of the big selling points of Slot was he played a similar style to Klopp, which seems to have gone out the fucking window. And he was good at developing players and improving players. This season, he's decided he's not going to fucking develop anyone or pick anyone. I still think, and I don't think it's hindsight, because I think I said it at the beginning of the season, we went into the season with only 4 starting attackers. We needed 5 because that's how we won the league last year. And Chiesa and Rio should be seen as utility supplement players. Chiesa didn't play in the last season, but he was the 6th choice. Chiesa and Rio should be 6th and 7th choice. And that would be fine because then you could actually get Rio more minutes because you have more options. We don't have enough options. And look now, we've had to overplay. We're now overplaying Ekatike, so he's not available. We're unfortunate with the Isaac. Now, some you're unfortunate with Isaac and Leo. They're unfortunate injuries. They're big injuries you can't go for. But I think we went in underprepared again in the summer. And I won't accept any bollocks from Liverpool. Oh, it's hard in January. Oh, we don't want to block paths, and we've got the plans for the summer. Honestly, guys, if you leave that squad now, I'm not sure that squad will get you top 4 now. The way it's playing. On paper, it should. The way it's playing, I go into every game hoping we win. I haven't been doing that for Liverpool since the fucking mid-90s. Do you know what I mean? I think the last time it's ages I've gone to game going, well, I hope we get something at Fulham, or hope we do well. You only go into games with Liverpool going, I expect Liverpool to win. And it's a surprise, or what you want.
I'm expecting Liverpool not, how are Liverpool not going to lose is now how Correct. I'm going into games.
Yeah, which for me is the wrong mentality.
Of course,
if you look at the last game, so I stayed awake in the Leeds game partly because it was fucking freezing, and it finished 0-0. I watched the City game, which also finished 0-0, but second half against City and Sunderland, thought me Sunderland defended for their lives, and they had to work their bollocks off. I basically felt like they not got away with it, but they had to. That was a hard-earned 0-0. And you went, Sunderland done well to get a 0-0 because City had some big chances and they really moved them and really worked them. Honestly, Leeds rested half their key players and then give United a good game. Fulham, to me, I think Fulham were kicking themselves going, Liverpool were there for taking. We should have actually attacked Liverpool more second half. I think Fulham will generally be kicking themselves today. So,
yeah,
like John was saying, Semenyo would help. He would do, yeah, but he doesn't want to come to Liverpool. So,
there's loads of players that would help, though, and I think that it doesn't need to be Semenyo. It doesn't need to be Semenyo, and we're talking about Rio, we're talking about Chiesa. You're saying that they're luxury options. With Rio, I get that. Chiesa's on 150 grand a week. He's equal to McAllister, Gravenberch, Allison. You're talking about the players that are basically indispensable on our team. And you've got Chiesa coming on for 5 minutes at the end of this game. When we need a goal, we've needed a goal the entire game. What's the fucking point of having him take a spot? Look, you know what? If Chiesa is not what the manager wants, there are players or teams rather that are looking for Chiesa on loan until the end of the year. Get someone else in. Get someone else in that's actually going to make a difference, because he's basically just he's a figurehead. He's a puppet to sit on the bench and fill a role, and that's it. And unfortunately, if that's the way that Slot's going to treat him, we can't have him here. And it's not because he's not, he wears his heart on his sleeve. He gives everything for the team. I really appreciate that. But if he's not going to be used, then there's no point in having him, and there's no point in putting him on that kind of a money.
And that's my worry with January, is I think the squad needs help. But if I also wonder if you're Hughes and Edwards, they're going, is it worth us buying another winger or buying another centre back? Because this fella won't fucking play him. So what's the why waste my money? But then there's part of me going, if he won't play to the plan, you have to move him on.
There's reports out right now that are, loosely linked at the moment to Florian Wirtz's father, talking to the German national team about how Florian Wirtz is carrying a hamstring stress, and that he's playing because Slot feels like he needs Wirtz to contribute to this team, but that he's basically in the red zone, and that they're monitoring the situation. He's on a separate training plan. He is taking days off, and he's kind of this entire time in an area where he's not at 100%. If we're there and we have no midfielders on the bench, I'm sorry, but you need to go and build a team that has another midfielder. You need to, whether that's, and look, we skipped over this in the transfer show on Friday, but we can't bring Elliott back unless Villa break that loan. So that's not on us. I would love to have Elliott back, because I think that's the person that you then put into that role quite easily for the last 30 minutes of the game. If you can't get Elliott, you need to bring someone else.
I think it's bring someone else, because if I'm Villa, generally, if I'm the Villa owner, I'd say to Harvey Elliott, go and hold it for 6 months, lad. Like, we're not going to pick you, so we're not going to pay you. I'm not sending you back to Liverpool because Liverpool are just below us in the league, and why am I going to help them? So
they're just going to play Harvey Elliott in the reserves for the rest of the year, and they're just going to keep him there. That's what they're going to do.
So I don't think Harvey Elliott's coming back to Liverpool, because I think if I'm Villa,
you're right.
I'd be self-preservation and go, shit on you, mate, but
they have no necessity to send him back whatsoever. And they could at any point between now and then get a serious injury and decide, you know what, we actually need Harvey Elliott, and he's an insurance policy that we have, and we're going to play him anyways. So there's no reason that they need to send him back to us. I don't want to get into that because that's a completely different conversation. I want to go back to the game before I kind of go down a rabbit hole.
Do we have to?
Yes.
Unfortunately, we do, because that's what we're here to talk about. I'm going to go real quickly, skipping the first 15 minutes, really, because there was about 55% possession for Liverpool with nothing, all the way to 16 minutes. And that's when you had your Jimenez touch through to Harry Wilson. It was a shot from wide from Wilson. It was flagged offside initially by the linesman. It went to VAR review, and you saw that Virgil van Dijk pretty clearly played Wilson onside, and the goal stands. So first of all, it was a very well-timed run from Wilson. It was a fantastic through ball to Wilson, but there were a couple things that happened here, Kev. And I think a bunch of us have kind of disagreements here. So first and foremost, you have Jimenez that's able to put a really fantastic ball in behind to Wilson. When you look at the freeze frame, there's actually very little pressure on the ball when he's actually making the pass. So you had Ibu step up. He failed to make a clearance. Bradley was out of position. He was expecting Ibu to make that clearance. And then you ended up with just Virgil back there, basically stranded, because they were playing for the offside. He wasn't expecting, Wilson's deep run. And you end up in a situation where Wilson, who's in kind of like super hot form at this point in time, I think that's something like it's 7 goals in 6 Premier League games for him, finishing it against Alisson. And it was a very good finish. I don't think Alisson could have done better. I think it was what it was. Kev, what was your reaction to this goal at this point in time in the game?
From a Fulham point of view, it was really well worked. Ball into Jimenez, lay it back into a space, and you get the deep runner. And that's what they would have been playing for. They would have been playing for that counter-attack goal. Carragher blamed Konate for not being able to get across to close the space off, and saying that Wilson wouldn't have run into that space. That's nonsense. Wilson was always running into that space. That space was there by design. That's why he was there in the first place, to run into it. He normally is on the opposite, on the Virgil side. That's where he started the game. But he's on the opposite side because he knows Bradley is going to be on the Bradley's going to be looking to push forward. Konate is going to be more aggressive because Raul Jimenez is on him, and that's where the space is going to open up. Gravenberch is too close to Dominic Szoboszlai. Szoboszlai is pointing at him, telling him to get back into his position. He's out of position. It's his man. Wilson is his man who makes the run from deep. Konate shouldn't. If you can't go to him with Jimenez to get the ball, you hold your line, and he probably reads the cutback and the run because he'd have seen it if he didn't lunge forward. The other thing that they could have done when they moved forward is Virgil and Kirkes could have read that knock back and pushed forward at the same time. When they saw the ball coming into Jimenez, they could have pushed forward and looked to play him onside. It was really razor thin. But between our mess up with, and there's plenty of blame to go around, you can lay it at Konate's door. I'd lay it on Gravenberch's door as well, more so because he didn't track his runner. But ultimately, once you got the layoff and the run, you're not catching it. So it was a really good finish. Could Alisson have got there? I think he got close to it, but no, he wasn't really saving it. It was right to the side net. It was a good finish, and that was the only thing that Fulham really did, up until that point. They soaked up the pressure, but it wasn't real pressure because we never really worked in it. We had the ball, and we were working it, but it was always a case of if you give it away in a stupid area, that counter-attack was always on, and that was their only real outlet. That's why they played Jimenez. I think that was Jimenez's. That start for him, Raul Jimenez, was the most starts he's ever had in the Premier League in a row, even at Wolves. This is the most consecutive games he started.
It's actually good to see him back after his horrible injury.
Yeah, and he played well, and Harry Wilson played well. It's bad defending from our point of view, but Gravenberch was so close to Szoboszlai. I think Szoboszlai turned around and looked at him. It was like, what the fuck are you doing here? It's like, you don't sense danger. You don't read danger. You don't sense it. And look, Gravenberch's a fantastic footballer. He genuinely is. But he's still learning this position. And it's not the first time that he's not
defensively minded.
Exactly.
He's not a firefighter.
Exactly. But at some point, you have to be aware that if you're going to dominate the ball the way we were dominating the ball, if they turn it over, that can happen. You have to be alive to it. Mm-hmm. And he was just so out of position. And yeah, can Konate not track Jimenez and get over? No, I don't think he's quick enough. I think that ball from Raul Jimenez would have taken Konate out of it completely anyway. So it's a combination of really good play from Fulham, but really poor, lackluster defending from us. And it was a kick in the teeth because you didn't see where Fulham were going to get anything up until that point. We weren't threatening Leno, but at the same time, we didn't look in any danger. So we were trying. You could tell with the way with the lineup and how many people were trying to get used to where they were on the pitch. You couple that with struggling with the press, and in fairness to Fulham, with the way they pressed, or the way they handled the press with the three centre backs, the two centre midfielders, and the wing backs were always open for options. So it made it very difficult for four Liverpool players to press it. So once they played around that and got up to near the halfway line, we dropped back into a kind of a 4-4-2 shape. But they just played through it. They just played through it really easily, and it was just a very sloppy goal to give up. Really poor one to concede.
Yeah, Chris, I think I threw a stat at you that that this is the first time that Fulham have played a back five at Craven Cottage in years, basically. And that they have what?
I think we have one win in the last. I think it's now the last 6 against the back 3, back 5.
Yeah,
it's getting to the point now with Liverpool. Everyone goes play back 3, back 5, sit back. Liverpool won't press you. Wait for them to come on. Wait for the mistake. Bang. 1-0 on the break, and then wait for a set piece. Bang. 2-0.
So it's
that's the plan now, and that's been the plan most of the season, and we haven't adapted.
Yeah, so the exact stat, it's been 1 year and 1 day since Fulham have last started with a back five at Craven Cottage. And the idea that it is, for lack of a better term, Slot's kryptonite, I think is known to everyone in the league. So even if you don't play in a back five, you're going to play in a back five against Liverpool. It was interesting to hear Kev talk there about how Fulham had a plan to just absorb pressure, and then they actually had a plan to attack. They actually had a fast break tactic to handle that. Compare that to us. We're sitting there, we're absorbing pressure, yes. But Chris, what's our plan to attack? So we're down by a goal here. It's 16 minutes in. You can go all the way up to the halftime if you want, because there's really nothing else that happens there. What's our plan after absorbing pressure or trying to keep things tight? What's Liverpool's plan to score a goal?
I think the plan is supposed to be these little triangles to create space to either get a cut back in or a cross in, but it's too slow. It's so easy to mark. And honestly, I think the midfield, apart from Jones, none of them could pass water today. They were Gravenberch and McAllister. Honestly, it's like they put the boots on their own feet today. They couldn't pass a ball.
Well, they were playing in completely different positions from what we've seen during this good run, for lack of a better term.
It is. But again, I'm just like going, we can't adapt to any sort of tactical change at the moment, I would say. Whereas, like you said, it's the first time Fulham have played the back three in years. But they look like they played it for fucking ages. So now they have more training time than we do, and the usual caveats. They do.
But
we should be able to adapt to it. We should be able to adapt to it.
They do play a back three away from home a bit, a good bit actually. It's at home they don't do it. The only thing that happened in the rest of the first half, so Bosley gets a cross in about half an hour, and Gakpo hits his crossbar with it. He's slightly offside, but that tended.
Yeah, there was a diving header from Gakpo.
Yeah, that tended to be the one outlet that you'd look for. Is look to try to get it wide and get either crosses in or engineer space to create cutback situations. But if you're looking, if the ball's out on the left, if Kirkes gets on the ball, you have some hope of being able to make a run. If Jones is on the left, you know that he's going to cut back and look for a cross with his right foot. But more than likely, Jones isn't crossing it. So you're not making runs. The only chance you had of crosses coming into the box in the first half was on the right-hand side from either Bradley or Szoboszlai. And
there was a few from Kirkes, but that was it.
Yeah, but they were tended to be from deeper, and they're a lot more predictable. And the one thing you look at the three Fulham centre-backs today, I think there was 6-2, 6-3, 6-4. And if the cross is accurate and pinpoint, then good. But if it's not...
When was the last time we've seen a cross that's accurate and pinpoint until the very end of the game? Fair.
No. That one from Szoboszlai was a good cross. And Gakpo was slightly offside. He didn't time his run right. But at the end of the day, the guy's playing striker for the first time in God knows how long. So it's also, and then you look at the amount of times it's one thing I know I made a point of watching. When you saw how Fulham were defending through the game, really, not on their penalty box, but slightly above it, that ball over the top was on all the time. And I watched Gakpo to see how many times he was looping in between the centre-backs, especially looking to try to get down between the two centre-backs and between the centre-back and the full-back and the wing-back. And he was making the runs a lot. The only ones who could pick their head up in those situations, you'd expect Virgil to be able to pick that pass. You'd expect Verts to be able to pick that pass. But it's not in their wheelhouse, in their mentality, to look for it. And that's what was driving me mad even more. Because at some point, whoever's playing the striker, it wouldn't matter whether it was Isak or fucking Prime or 9, they're going to stop running. If the ball doesn't come, they're going to stop running. And then when the ball does come and they're not there, you wonder why.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just seen a few in the chat here, just to address a few things here. One is saying, like, I'd rather be on this unbeaten run than the losing run. Yeah, we all would. But if you look at the last 9 games, you should be on a fucking unbeaten run against these. That I don't think it's impressive that we're on this unbeaten run.
I mean, our next 6, just for context, is Arsenal, Burnley, Bournemouth, Newcastle, Man City, Sunderland. I could see us maybe getting 6 points out of that whole run.
Exactly, yeah. Good. And I've seen a few. I think a couple are on the wind up. Was said like, I didn't see anybody crying about the summer that we had. There was plenty that mentioned in the summer going happy with who we brought in. No one's criticising the players we brought in. They made sense.
We all said there were
understood why you
glaring
brought
holes,
them.
though.
But we all said we definitely were centre back light. Everyone said that. Even the club said that because they tried to get Guehi. Most of us said we were a winger light because we need probably one more pace option. And then you could probably make do with the midfield, but you need a bit of luck with injuries. They're not Captain Hindsight. That was pretty much said during the summer and after the window closed. There was no criticism of the ones we brought in. There were still areas of the pitch we left massively open. And if I'm honest, I think they're starting to sting.
Okay, since the humbling against PSV Eindhoven, beat West Ham 2-0, drew with Sunderland 1-1, 3-3 against Leeds away, beat Inter 1-0 away, beat Brighton 2-0 at home, beat Spurs 2-1 away, beat Wolverhampton 2-1, drew with Leeds, drew with Fulham. Now, the one thing you'd say about all of those games, bar Brighton and West Ham, is there was only the odd goal in it. There was the odd
felt
goal
like
in
we
it.
were clinging on in every single one of those games, Kev.
Everyone. Yeah, everyone. And every single one of those games, you're in there and you're looking, and it's like, if you get out of it, you get the result. How many times do we come on after post-match shows, say, take the 3 points and move on, take the 3 points and move on? And that is fine. That gets you to a point. But when it doesn't work, like against Leeds and like today against Fulham, when you're playing ponderous, slow, lethargic, lazy football and risk-averse football, and you don't get the goal, you're leaving yourself open for what happened. And what happened today is totally 100% a deserved draw for Fulham.
Oh, yeah.
A completely deserved draw. It would have been highway robbery if we'd have took 3 points out of that today. It would have been the ultimate smash and grab. So, and that's not... And the other side of it is, I bet you a pound to a penny, if you look at all of those games and you look at the core group of players who played in all of those games, I bet you out of all of those players, 14 players have probably started every single game.
Yeah, outside of Frimpong rotating in, or Gomez rotating in at the beginning. Excuse me.
And Isaac until the
game. It's like Kev says, it's 15 players. That's what Slot has been running with since the beginning of season. It's been 15 players or less.
And you can take into context you've had injuries, you have a thin squad anyway, but when you couple injuries, lack of form, throw the AFCON
playing players that are injured,
and then you start playing overplaying players. What's the story? The stuff coming out with Frimpong is no surprise when you hear that he's not actually training.
No, for Wirtz, not Frimpong.
He's literally Florian Wirtz. That he's not physically training as out and out training as a player should be. That he's literally doing recovery work after every game and in between games. He's managing himself with Pilates and what have you. So the other side of it is you see plenty of players. I remember Kai Havertz when he went to Chelsea. Kai Havertz, when he came to Chelsea, £72 million, was flying in the Bundesliga, absolutely ripping it up to shreds. Christopher Nkunku, the exact same, ripping it up to shreds. Came into the Premier League and literally the ground hit him. They didn't hit the ground. The ground hit them. In their first season, it usually takes them a while. They're getting used to an extra cup competition. They're getting used to a more intense league, more physically demanding league. And then you couple into the fact that the Bundesliga players would have been off from the third week of December through till probably next week. Next weekend is when they're back. So that mid-season break, coupled with the fact that they have one less cup competition and they have less players less clubs in the Bundesliga than the Premier League, means that they play less football. It's no surprise that the German players and in general the Bundesliga players, when they come into the Premier League, they find it hard in their first season. Dominik Szoboszlai is a prime example of it.
There's loads of them.
Yeah, there's a shed load of them.
There's so many of them. You look at Havertz, you look at Nkunku, you look at Werner, you look at what's his name? Gittins over at Chelsea can get game time. Xavi Simons, loads of them.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's not unique to Florian Wirtz, but at the same time, when you don't have the options to properly manage these players, it's no wonder that they start to break down. And we're at a stage now where we've got 2 fit centre-backs, we're using all of our midfielders, and the forwards that we have now are either suffering, like Hugo is, or coming back from injury like Cody is, and we're trying to just make a bad situation work as best as we possibly could. So it is what it is at the minute. But when you,
I mean, with the power of hindsight, though, you can say that probably overall there were mistakes that have been made, and they'll learn from their mistakes.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Yeah, well, centre back is declaring admission because they did go for Guehi and they didn't get him, and they went for him for a reason because they knew they needed him. So
yeah,
and if they knew they needed him, then they need him now.
I think it's ridiculous that this early in the window there's been no concrete talk or links to any centre back, and I'm not having this. Oh, Liverpool only have this one target. Liverpool have multiple targets. They have the main ones, and they have ones that they look as alternative. He is not the only centre back in the fucking world. I don't believe they can't find a centre back. Also, this is what Hughes and Edwards were brought in for: is finding gaps in the market, opportunities, clever, finding things, before the curve. Well, lads, here's your fucking job. Crack on with it. We need a centre back. And we need one quick, because literally we were. I think if Canate had been booked against Leeds last week, he'd have missed today, because that was the deadline. Leeds was the deadline. So, that's how close we are. We're literally a Canate or a Virgil van Dijk injury from going.
You don't even have to talk about an injury, mate. You talk about a red card. At the end of the day, you take a red card to a player, and that's 3 games they're missing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you look at the bench going, so who can play centre back then if one of them's out? Gomez,
Robbo,
that's for a game or 2,
or Gravenberch, and you're taking a player out,
or Gravenberch. Or Endo.
I mean,
so
Endo
again going back
to we can't even consider that.
Or you're playing a kid, or you're throwing a kid in.
Well, the last time we've thrown kids in, they've gotten red cards both times.
Well, Paul Nallo, twice we've thrown him in, twice Paul has been red carded. But it's been fed to the Wolves. So it's ridiculous they haven't got a centre back.
I mean, that being said, I will make the argument that I don't think bringing in a young center back is the option. So we're talking here about, Wirtz and Ekitike having a difficult time hitting the ground running. I think that what we need is a senior center back, especially someone that has played in the Premier League extensively, that we could throw in like a Matip. I don't actually care if they're 26 years old. I don't care if they're 27 years old. What we need is someone that's dependable, that's able to rotate in and out seamlessly. And they're not going to be Virgil van Dijk. But we need to have the opportunity to rest these players, because I'm sorry, Virgil van Dijk is going to burn out eventually. We're supposed to be managing his minutes at this point in time. And I think it's actually borderline negligent the way that we're asking him to continue to go. And the same thing with Canate.
Well, put it, neither of them are going to play against Barnsley. So our centre-back partnership against Barnsley is probably Robbo and Gomez. Fuck knows who plays left-back. Maybe Frimpong right-back. There'll be no Ekitike, so I don't know who you're going to play up front. You're kind of already looking going, this looks a bit Plymouth away again. It's got that vibe to it.
It's one of the only trophies that we have left to go for. You're going to have to throw some people in. But that's a different show. It's a different show. We can go into that in great depth later.
Yeah, I mean, it's things like this is an example. How the director of football miss out on Thiago, who's at Brentford, who, like I said, and we're all going to go, I know it's going to go, oh, he's no Isak, he's no Hugo. But if we're going to go to 2 up front, which seems like maybe a path we're going down, you need a third number 9. So you don't need a worldie, but you need a decent squad option. Him or
we talked about Even Nielsen the other day. Yesterday rather, and we were talking about how that's kind of all you need. You need to find the next Even Nielsen that you can sign for around 30 million that is useful. And he doesn't have to be prolific, but he can do a job. Maybe someone that's a little bit different from our number 9s that could play false 9. You don't go and sign Even Nielsen. You don't go and sign, Thiago, because they've hit the big time. But there's players out there that you can go and sign that are of that kind of ilk. that could then play a role in our team.
Archie wants to know, is there any positives in the near future?
It's funny you mention that because I think we should probably go into the next half of the game before we kind of go too far down our rabbit hole. And we'll talk a little bit about Liverpool's little, I'm going to call it a brief spell of positivity. I think I'm being really optimistic in saying that. So we have halftime. We sort of talk about maybe potential changes. Kev is out there with a shout saying McAllister should go, Rio should come on. The rest of us are kind of surprised that there's no changes at halftime, but no changes at halftime. And you immediately see on 46 minutes, a Kirkus cross and a Gakpo finish where Gakpo is 2 yards offside. He's way offside, but at least the ball's in the back of the net. And you are like, okay, well, at least there's a little bit of goal mouth action to go into. 52 minutes comes, a couple minutes later, we have a corner from Szoboszlai, and then you have a McAllister header that hits the crossbar. And you're like, oh, okay, maybe we're getting a little bit closer. And then at 56 minutes, you have Bradley that cuts through the box for probably the first time all game. The first sort of incisive action where a player carries the ball into the box. And then you have Wirtz that gets the ball on his run. And I initially wrote, Bradley had one touch too many. Wirtz puts the ball in the net, but he's flagged offside. And then we see a pretty extensive VAR review. We see Pawson, who's the referee, speak to the players saying it's tight. Now, full transparency here. Upon looking at the lines, it looks like Florian Wirtz is offside to me. If you're looking at the lines on the pitch, it looks like Florian Wirtz is offside. That being said, we don't know where the exact frame is that they're using for their semi-automated offside is. We don't know if that's what Sky is showing us. We don't even know if the grass is cut perfectly in line. So all of those things need to be taken into consideration. There's also a margin of error involved in the VAR offside process where there is sort of like a give and take of a few centimeters in one direction or the other. I think that Florian Wirtz may have been the beneficiary of that give and take here. Chris, I'm going to come to you because I came to Kev for the first goal. Kev unfortunately got a power cut at the very moment that this goal happened.
Honestly, Kev messaged us said, I've got a power cut me, and I said,
we went lucky you, and then we scored. So Chris, I'm going to come to you on the reaction to this lengthy VAR review and goal. What was your initial reaction here?
I thought it was offside. The certain replays I go, I still think it's offside.
Most people tend to. Yeah, there's a lot of conspiracy theorists kind of popping out of the woodwork here happening.
Yeah, but the fact it took so long, because to me it looked quite cut and dry. I thought, yeah, he looks just off to me. Okay, he's one of them. Let's hope they react to it. But this felt a bit like when Liverpool scored away in Porto in one of the runs for the Champions League final, where you sort of went, because it took so long, you went, this must be actually. The longer it takes, I would think, for these offside things, the more you think it must be on, and they're just trying to prove to make sure it is on, so they don't have another top.
It's actually really funny. In my commentary, I have the United States commentary. So their excuse was, well,
they were surprised in the English commentary. They thought it was off.
So did mine. But my commentary's explanation was, well, the semi-automated offside isn't in the same room as the VAR, so it takes time to get the images from the VAR to the semi-automated offside separate office.
Oh, and Jesus that was their explanation. What do they think? There's a fucking rat wheel going and
apparently they don't understand
running the Wi-Fi.
They don't understand Wi-Fi. But that was their explanation to the United States audience. And I'm like, well, okay, like thanks for thinking it's really, really dumb. But yeah, I don't know if you saw a replay, Kev.
I did.
Did you think it was offside upon first viewing? Because I certainly did.
See, my problem is I saw the review post-match. Okay. And post-match, Sky did their line image, their 3D image, using the still image that they already had. So when you go off that, he's slightly offside. When you go off the one that the Premier League and VAR go off of, he's marginally onside. So look, at some point you have to trust the technology. The technology that's there doesn't change. The lines and the dimensions and everything that's on the pitch didn't change because the Wilson goal was scored on that half of the pitch as well. And he was very close. That was marginal to being off or onside. He was marginally onside. It's no different for Florian Wirtz. You have to trust the technology. It's the same for both sides, and you take it when it's there, because it was a really good run by Bradley that committed 3 players to him, that allowed Wirtz to find the space, and it was a really good finish.
He was on his weak foot too, which is commendable. Especially if it is true that he's managing hamstring problems and things like that. Like, it's a great finish for him. It's his second goal in the Premier League.
Yeah, the best thing about the finish is you see it with a lot of his attempts so far. He tends to go low and looks for the corners. This one he went high and over the keeper. So whether it's a case that he knows Leno from being in the Germany squad with him or whatever, that he gets the ground early, or that he might like to use his legs. So he just went up over him with the shot, and it was a lovely finish. And you're back at 1-1, and you're thinking, okay, now let's go on and win it. Because I got my power back about a couple of minutes later.
That was our best point in the whole game. There was a little pep in their step after getting that.
Yeah, reward. And Cody Gakpo gets a shot off from about 20. And the thing is, it's one thing that I was said after the Leeds game. If you're playing against the low block, you got to try to engineer space from outside the box to take shots. If you get a deflection, it might go in. If you get a deflection, it might go out for a corner. Something might happen. But you got to buy a ticket and see what happens. Gakpo gets one shot and it goes off wide. And then you're like, okay, we're starting to really commit now. We're starting to move the ball a bit faster and look to try to force something. And then we get the fright of all frights with wow.
Fuck me, yeah.
A good counter, and I think Ibu does really well to get back to Raul Jimenez and put a block in. And I think, is it Wilson?
Yeah, so it was a Jimenez shot that was initially blocked by Alisson.
Yeah.
Alisson does well to make himself big. The ricochet then comes back. So Jimenez actually beats Konate pretty easily to get that shot off. And then the ricochet comes back to Wilson, and that's where Wilson has that touch that hits the crossbar. I think Ali does enough to put him off.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that kind of saves us there. And it's another sort of life flash before your eyes moment where it's like, okay, like you've had warning shots. You've had a lot of warning shots. And you know what? I guess maybe in weeks gone by, you would have seen some of these things that went off the bar actually go in. It felt like luck was a little bit more in our favor today. It was a little bit more balanced as opposed to in weeks gone by, just feeling like it felt like every single one of those players had walked underneath the ladder and then walked past a black cat in one day.
That's a fair point, actually. I found it weird that Virgil's clearance was to hoof it out over his crossbar. That could have easily fucking gone in. And I
did notice that.
I've seen that happen.
I mean, I guess Virgil has a level of composure there that probably no other defender probably has.
Yeah, but
we've definitely seen things like that where Matip does that and it goes horribly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that didn't make me super comfortable either.
But I think the frustration is, and this feels a bit like the season under Klopp, when we had no midfield, when we finished 5th, where Liverpool would be given an element of luck, a let-off, and then still persisted in almost like saying to them, "Oh, you got away. We got away with that. Sorry about that." Here,
well, 3 minutes later, you had Kevin's shot that was fortunately blocked by his own player. It was blocked by Wilson, but there was a shot on target there from Kevin just 3 minutes later. So, yeah, it was.
I think that's been the frustration recently. It feels like we're almost like when you listen. Every team has luck. Every team has things go for them. The good sides use that luck to their advantage. It feels like Liverpool almost like feel guilty getting any bit of luck and going, "Oh, we need to give this back to the opposition."
Well, that's the other thing.
I think you were lucky there. Try again, because it just feels like that. It just feels like.
Yeah, why don't you read that out, Kev?
Yeah, we do act sometimes like the ball is like hot potato or lava. Just control it and then pass it rather than hoof it. Konate was guilty of this more than anyone, where he got the ball at his feet and he played it out, and his first instinct was clear it. I don't mind that.
But don't clear it to a place where they can have a long throw in.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to come to. Here's the thing: this season, whereas Virgil used to always be the one, okay, I'll get the ball and I'll clear it out. It'll go out for a throw in, and we'll reset, and we'll defend from here, and we'll win it back, and we'll be fine. This season, if you're clearing it, the ball goes out to the side, they will put long throw-ins in, and Fulham did all game. They put long throw-ins virtually almost all the time. So Konate was clearing it direct, and they have three centre-backs at the back. We were playing one up front. The ball's coming back at you. So it needed a bit of composure to be able to pass it out through. Trust your midfielders that you can pass it into them, and they'll be able to control it. But instead, he just kept going direct. It was only a spell for about 5 minutes that we had to fight. And look, we're away. We're not at home. The home sides in every game, you're going to see them. They're going to have a period in the game. And Fulham had a period of about 10 minutes, where they were okay. By their standards, they were decent. So they got on the ball and they tried to make stuff happen. But I never felt Ali was really worked, other than that one Wilson one that
there was a moment where the ball goes under his foot and then he falls over, and I just again had a moment of panic where I'm like, Allison, please just get your shit together. You're the only adult on the field. But yeah, that I think was probably the only moment there. There was a moment at 89 minutes where Allison did one of those kind of brain fart passes right into the middle of the pitch and nearly gave the ball away. And again, I nearly had a heart attack. But we were saved there. We got 7 minutes of extra time. And you had, at 94 minutes, you have Frimpong, again, making a dangerous run into the box, which we didn't really see all game, minus, maybe 2 occasions. He gets to the byline. He puts a cross through the Fulham defenders. It goes between Leno. It goes between Anderson. It goes to Gakpo at the far post, who, for the first time since November, scores a goal. Fantastic. For a moment in time, it felt like Liverpool was going to get out of this game, maybe get a boost on their travels, and we'll go back to being, the magical last-minute Reds. We're at 94 minutes. The clock is winding down. Theoretically, there should be 3 minutes left of extra time. At that moment in time, Chris, did you think this is going to be a winner? Were you happy at that point in time?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did.
Let's just talk about it for just the 30 seconds it existed in existence.
Do you know what? I can't say I jumped with elation. This wasn't like, and Kev was there, this wasn't like the Carvalho goal where I went fucking ballistic, and we were shouting that game as well. And I thought, fuck me, we've nicked this. I was like, oh, great.
It felt like a relief more than anything else.
I don't think it felt a relief. I was just like, well, at least we got 3 points. So that's a good start.
It felt something to me a little bit like the Elliott smash and grab at PSG, where it was like, that was so undeserved. Yeah. We're going to get out of here with 3 points.
Do you know what? I was pleased for Frimpong and Gakpo. Frimpong is a really good ball. So again, Frimpong coming on as, done positive things, he is. And I was pleased for Gakpo because he had a shitter of a game. He had a game where, honestly, it felt like everywhere he turned, he stood in the rake. He was always offside, his wrong pass, wrong shot. Players have those games where it just doesn't go through. And do you know what? It fell for him. He took the goal bouncing off his thigh, I think. I was like, great. Smash and grab, get out of dodge. Thank fuck for that. Let's move on. And then Liverpool being Liverpool went, no. We don't do stuff like this.
So before we get to that, let's talk about the fact that Slot decides at 95 minutes and 45 seconds, so 1 minute and 15 seconds left, give or take a minute. He decides he's going to take Gakpo off. He's going to put Gomez on. So creating a little bit of, if you want to call it, defensive stability in the team. That's one way of looking at it. For me, I think that substitutions actually destabilize a team. And I think that if you have 1 minute left, I'm not 100% sure about this team. This league doesn't let you time waste. It'll give you those minutes back on at the end. So we have Gomez come on. And then at 96 minutes, you have Fulham that get a long throw, or what we think is going to be a long throw. We set up to defend said long throw. Fulham gets clever. They decide they're going to take the throw short. They're going to give it to Harrison Reed, who hasn't scored since April 2023. And Harrison Reed has basically an ocean of space to take a touch, set himself, and then produce a screamer in all fairness. It is a screamer of a goal. But as we were talking about before we set off on this show, if you give any Premier League player worth their salt, time and space at that spot in the field, they're going to hit the target. Will they hit the target in the postage stamp at the top right corner of the net? No, but they will hit the target. And not one Liverpool player, Kev, went to approach Harrison Reed. He was allowed acres of space. We were so concerned with just the long throw that we were not mentally turned on for any other possibility. Kev, do you think that this was just a moment of magic? Do you think that this was Liverpool turning off?
Two things can be true at the same time. Yeah, they were set up to defend the long throw. They put long throws in all game, and they were alive to it. I think they're probably looking to engineer a space for a cross to come in, and they had a 3v1 or 3v2 on that side. They weren't the space. The pitch just opened up for him, and he just hits it. You know, I think the person in front of him when he shoots is Virgil. All he can do is probably run to try to charge it down. He's not getting there. That's for certain.
No, there's way too much distance between them. Like he literally has acres of space to do whatever he wants with that ball.
Exactly. The only thing you could be alive to is, okay, you've brought Joe Gomez on for Cottage. I didn't mind the change because I think with the VAR check that was happening with that goal and the goal, the celebration and everything like that, I think there was probably going to be an extra 2 minutes added on at least, maybe even 3. So I didn't mind the change so much, but you've got the extra defender on there. Once you saw, somebody must have seen the fact that there was a potential for a 3v2 out there. You had enough defenders in there to defend the set piece. Just put somebody on the edge of the box. Put somebody on the edge of the box. If anything, you've won every header. You've cleared every set piece. You've defended every set piece brilliantly all game long. If you win that, if they put the ball in from a long throw and you win that header and someone's on the edge of the box, you can get on the counter and go and win it. You know, you could go and take the ball at the other end of the pitch and kill the game off. Somebody should have sensed that there's a possibility that they could work a situation to get a cross in, because that's what I think that ultimately they were looking to do.
Well, you also have to remember that this is a goal that we've conceded before. Yeah. This is a goal that we've conceded before. Go back to Everton, last kick of the game, you had Harrison that decided he was going to put that screamer into the top corner. Mm-hmm. This is not something that we're unfamiliar with. We know that this team, late in games, and again, I'm not discounting the fact it's a screamer and that that player probably scores that 1 out of every 20 times. I'm not discounting that.
Well, I'll tell you what, that goal has an XG value of 0.04.
Yeah, so, is what it is.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable. The closest hit that I put that down to, Messi's free kick for Barcelona. That's posted. It's that level of postage stamp stuff. Alisson hadn't a fucking prayer. Alisson is still one of the best keepers in the world. He didn't have a chance. That was top bin, side netting. Years ago, that ball would have wrapped around the corner post inside the goal and stayed in there. That's how accurate it was. He will play football for the rest of his life and never hit a ball that good. And
I mean, he hasn't hit a ball that good. He hasn't scored for 3 years.
No, I know.
You know, but so
I want to see him if he does that again. I want to see it.
Because I mean, he probably has the confidence to try. I
firmly believe he'll never do that again. It's an unbelievable hit. We were never alive to the possibility that it was even on. That's what worries me more than anything.
Yeah, that's the problem. We're not alive to the danger.
Like the first goal, we weren't alive to the possibility of it happening.
Well, we weren't alive to the fact that that player needed to be closed down. And I don't even know if it's we're not alive to it. I think that we're not being coached to shut that player down. And I think that might actually be a more important distinction, because you're going to see plenty of replays from this game about how lackluster or invisible our press was. And this was another example of, if you had a press, any sort of press, that player wouldn't have had that time. Same thing with the Jimenez assist for Wilson. If there had been a press, there wouldn't have been the option for that perfect ball. And I think that that's what we're seeing here. Is I understand that, sometimes you're going to sit off of your opponent, but we're allowing well, that's the thing. We're allowing players so long that they are able to take their head, look up in front of them, and not only pick the pass, pick the perfect pass. They have enough time to wait the pass. They have enough time to see exactly where it's going, or they have enough time to score an absolute fucking worldie, because there's no one anywhere close. There's absolutely no press whatsoever. And that to me is criminal. As a Liverpool team,
100%.
that is coaching, though. That is 100% coaching. And I think that it's important that we kind of circle back. You know, it ends 2-2. I think we all kind of agree, sort of a fair scoreline. If we had gotten out there with a win, it would have felt almost undeserved. But Chris, I'll come back to you on this because I know you have really strong feelings, and I feel like you articulated yourself really well at the beginning of the show. I want to talk about where this leaves Slot in terms of his coaching, because for me, again, I said this against Wolves, I said it against Leeds, I'm going to say it again today. It feels like Slot has decided to use these last couple of games as an opportunity to tactically try to switch things around away from the diamond. The diamond was giving us a level of stability. It was creating a little bit of insurance for Gravenberch back in the 6 with Jones right next to him. So if Gravenberch, for example, like today, stepped out and decided he got that wrong, there was another player there to kind of cover for him. It also was creating a connection between Florian Wirtz and Kirkez and Jones on the left, which has evaporated. And then it also created a role for Szoboszlai out on the right wing, which again evaporated. It's been then moved. He's been moved sort of into this pseudo 10 role. I don't understand where Slot is going. Do you understand where Slot's going? Because we're not doing the diamond anymore. We're clearly trying to progress to something else, but I have no clue what we're trying to progress to, Chris. Do you know? And I don't think this is about Ekitike being fit or not fit. I think that this is something that we've seen for the last 3 games.
I think he's shit the bed since Isak got injured. I think he's decided since Isak got injured, he doesn't want to do this two up front diamond. And I think it's also possibly a little bit of stubbornness, which is I'm a 4-3-3 manager. I'm going to get this team playing my way 4-3-3, despite the fact it's not worked. The style of play, it's really slow, it's dull, it's boring. And again, he wasn't playing this way last season.
No.
Now, we can also
toward the tail end of the season, I would say that it sort of started to rear its head.
But generally, what Slot was very good at last year was he was very proactive. You know, and he found ways of linking things up. You know, whether he moved, Diaz to the centre, or like he was proactive. He tried to. He always went into games risking a loss to make sure he won it. You know, which the best managers do if you're going to win things. To me, he just looks shit scared of losing. I don't think he's ever recovered from that loss of 6 losses in a row. And I think he's to me. I'm 42. I've seen enough Liverpool managers, successful and non-successful. It just feels like he's in
purgatory.
Survival mode.
I feel like he's in. I feel like we're all in purgatory.
Yeah, I'm just doing whatever I can to try and get results and get myself through. And he's either hoping he gets either some help in January or he gets a stay of execution in the summer, or maybe he's been already told, get us top 4, get us in the summer. There'll be a golden handshake. See you later. Off you go. But we're not adapting at all, and we're just so reactive in terms of how we change it. It feels a little bit like the sail end of Brendan Rodgers, where he'd try a new formation, and if something didn't quite work, the next week the baby will be out with the bathwater. It'll be a brand new formation or brand new setup, and it just feels like it wouldn't surprise me if next week we set up slightly differently again, and we'll be like, "Why we set up this way against Arsenal? I don't know. Why not?"
I mean, that's to me my biggest fear, though, is that. Kev said it perfectly at the beginning of the show. We looked like we were trying to kind of figure it out as we were going, where it was like, these players have never played these positions. They don't know where each other's runs are. This is exactly what got us into this run in the first place. This is what, back in October, November, we started saying, why are we doing this? Our players are just starting to get to know each other. They're brand new. We need them to gel, and they don't know where the fuck anyone's supposed to be. Why are we doing it again
honestly, now? If you look at this against Arsenal, I think you'd be lucky if you get an hour out of Ekitike against Arsenal. I think if anything, I don't think you'll start.
I argue the same thing about Wirtz. So you're looking at 60 minutes out of your 2 best players.
So I think he's going to go back for midfield. I think he'll have to go midfield 5 and just stick Gakpo up front of his own, because he's going to have to do something. Because I think there's talk from Lewis Steele, something called, I can't remember what the terminology means. DOMS, something to do with like
delayed onset muscle
I think
soreness is what that means.
Basically, fatigue in the hamstring. Which, good news is it a pull or a tear? No, but it's more of those ones you have to just manage and see how he is. I'll be amazed if he starts against Arsenal. I think he might make the bench. I don't think
I wouldn't have him anywhere near the Arsenal.
Verts again.
Purely and simply because
I think he will.
Your season is not going to be defined by a match against Arsenal, but your season could be irrevocably damaged if you lose another striker for a hamstring tear. So
I think he's that fearful of losing games.
If we're in a point where we're endangering Verts and Ekitike, I cannot endorse a window without signing anyone.
Oh, no.
I can understand FSG wanting to hold their powder dry and all these things. I can understand FSG looking at the situation and saying we can get top 4 with this squad. But if we're endangering certain players to the point where either Ekitike or Verts are out for, let's just say, a month, just to be conservative. If we're at a point where we are literally gambling every single game that can happen, they have to get their fucking thumb out.
But I think if FSG, we know they're conservative.
They are, but they could bring a loan in. I don't care. They did it with Kabak. They did it with. What's his face? The hologram.
Yeah, but if you look at the investment at the moment, your £125 million investment is out till, if we're lucky, April maybe next season. Your next highest investment is at risk of being overplayed to a hamstring pull. Your third highest investment is struggling now with a hamstring injury. There's £400 million.
That's your data team, though, that made that decision. They made that decision. They knew that Ekitike hadn't played. They knew he had a history of injuries. They knew that Florian Wirtz was coming from the Bundesliga. They knew that Ekitike was coming from the Bundesliga. They knew that Ekitike didn't have a wealth of minutes behind him in the Bundesliga either. He didn't play every single game. He didn't play every single minute. They decided to spend that. Let me finish. They decided to spend that money on those 3 players. I'm sorry, Chris. I don't mean that as a way. Sorry. No, but they decided to spend that money. Like, that was their allocation of funds. And they are so adamant about coming out and saying, oh, we can only spend the money once. We can't afford to spend it twice. Well, if you're going to make that data work for you, then you have to wear that if it fails. And I'm sorry, they're wearing it if it fails. They deserve to be called out for that, because they made the decision to spend all of that money on a very, very small pool of players. They could have taken that money and spread it across 6 players instead of 3 players. They chose not to. And they decided, you know what? We're at the big boys table. We're going to decide to spend at the big boys table. We're going to splash the cash. And they got all of the plaudits for it, but they deserve to get all of the criticism for it as well when it falls flat on their face. So when they get egg on their face, they deserve to be called out. I'm sorry, but that is...
Sorry.
There's nothing that we can do to give them an excuse for that.
Yeah, but I haven't given them an excuse once. What I'm saying is, if they're going to spend that level of investment, which they are, they cannot afford to risk not having Champions League football. They cannot afford. So if they want to get the spreadsheet out and, take a calculated risk, your 3 biggest assets that you spent money on are either out or looking likely to be out. So, you know what? You're going to have to give them some support. So you're going to have to dip into that pool of money.
They're signing 2 17-year-olds from all accounts. They're signing one from Austria. There's another one, I think, from Senegal that's coming in. That, to me, that's not opportunity. I'm all for building up the academy. That's great. That's a whole separate business.
That's a separate project.
I'm tired of having people come and say, look, Liverpool are signing people. I'm sorry, 17-year-olds are not considered first-team signings.
No, it's got to be first team, people that will affect the first-team squad now, and I think that's what it is.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I mean, look, I'm excited. The second one, I think his name is El Hadj. Ndiaye from Amity FC. He's expected to sign with Liverpool in the next couple of days. He was also in the U17 World Cup in Qatar. It's great. He signs along with Ndweke, who was 17, also signed. So 2 17-year-olds that are going into the academy. Fantastic. those are not breaking news for Liverpool Football Club. Those are breaking news for Liverpool Football Academy. Please don't conflate the two.
Exactly.
Yeah, they don't help us one way.
Yeah.
They don't help us in the
let's face
slightest.
it.
First of all, the Austrian kid's not coming until July. I have no idea when the kid from Senegal is coming in either, because this is brand new. But the idea of using
today, they're not
that
playing.
as
They're not playing tomorrow. They're not going to be in the squad.
No, they're not using it tomorrow.
What's the
But
point?
to me, that's like look at us. We're spending money and we're doing something positive, and we're going to spin it in a PR way to make it look like we're doing something. I'm sorry, we're not doing anything. That's not a first team signing.
Yeah, look, the squad is paper thin, even with when everyone is available. Fulham squad is deeper. Fulham squad is deeper. They're missing more players today than we are. They're missing more first-team players than we are. That is scandalous. I mean, at the end of the day, the club has to finish in the top four. It has to finish in the Champions League. We saw before what happened to Liverpool when they fell out of the Champions League football and they fell out of Champions League money. It took years to get back. And it took years to get back anywhere near remotely close to where we were. So that luxury of gambling on the investment they made in the summer, they don't have. This summer was always phase one, had to be phase one. This January, you have to be adding more to the squad because the squad desperately needs it. And you can only blame the manager so much when you look at what he actually has available to him to use today and going forward against Arsenal. His options are very limited as to what he can actually do with, any meaningful way.
Let's look at the bench here. So we had Frimpong, Chiesa, and Gomez, right? Cool. Yeah. We had Woodman. We had Marmadishvili. We had Robertson, Ramsey, Nioni, and Ngamoa.
Yeah.
So we had 2 keepers, 3 children, and Robertson.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. When I say the squad is razor thin, you look at who's injured. Leone's out for the season.
We don't have that many injuries.
No. That's what I mean. Leone's out injured. Bajcetic, we've never seen all season, so don't really count him. Endo, knock. But Endo's been out for a while with this knock, and we don't know when he's going to be back.
He's not going to play even if he does come back, if we're being completely honest.
Isak is an impact injury. They happen through the season. You can't legislate for that. Leone, impact injury, horrible injury. Can't legislate for that. But at the same time, we went into the summer knowing that we needed a centre-back, and we failed on the last day. So that hasn't changed. If anything, it's only told you we need to address it more because of the injury to Leone. Leone was always brought in as, look, he played a season and a half with Parma before he joined us.
He was a project. He was always a project.
He was always going to be a project for the Premier League, but I think he would have played more football given the form of Ibu Konate if he'd have been available. I think he would have played more.
But I mean, Konate got away with playing the entire season last year with, I think Kwanzaa is probably more advanced than where Leone is. I don't know that because I haven't seen a wealth of evidence on Leone's
I can only go by what I watched of him when
he played fantastic against Southampton, but
it's not just that. The stuff that he did, he played for Parma. He was playing in Serie A. He was pretty much a staple for them last season. He played a fair bit. And you watch him playing against the likes of against Lukaku and other proper Serie A players, and he more than handles himself. It's unfortunate that he's not available, but it only highlights the fact that we desperately needed a centre-back anyway. His injury makes it more so. So the idea that we can go through January and not sign a centre-back is laughable.
Well, Darren says here, guys, FSG always plays a long game. In my opinion, this is the transition season we presumed we'd have last season after manager change. Finishing in the Champions League and betting in players is the point of this season. I don't disagree with you, Darren.
No, that's fair enough.
I think that all of us can kind of see that at this point in time. There's no title challenge. There's no nothing. It's top 4. We've seen that from the players. We've seen that from Slot. However, I am not 100% confident in this team getting top 4. I'm not.
I just think the squad is too thin. It literally, yeah. I mean, you look at it now. I mean, the window's open. You look at that bench and you look at it as what can Slot actually do with that squad as it stands today? It's come out of the Christmas period. The Arsenal game midweek is the last game of the condensed Christmas period. And it's literally limping out of that period of football now because everyone is, I'd imagine the vast majority of that squad that played today are either in the red zone or right fucking on. I don't think they're training. I think all they're doing is literally recovery sessions and nothing more.
Yeah. So Arsenal is in 4 days and 1 hour.
Yeah.
And then you have the FA Cup against Barnsley. So that's the following Monday.
Yeah.
And then you go straight back into within the space of, let's see, from the 17th through
League, isn't it?
the end of, so from the 17th until the end of January, you have Burnley, then you have Marseille, then you have Bournemouth, then you have Qarabag, or however you pronounce it, because I'm going to butcher it. Sorry. And then we have Newcastle. So in the space of less than 2 weeks, we have all of those games coming up. So yes, we go to Arsenal next in 4 days. Then we have Barnsley.
The biggest gap we have in games is after the Barnsley game. We have a 5-day gap to. We played Barnsley on a Monday night.
So it's Barnsley to Burnley.
Yeah, that's the biggest
Monday
gap.
through Saturday, and then after that
it's a game every
Wednesday,
3 days.
Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday.
Yeah, and that's right up until the end of January.
We don't have enough players to do that. Like, I don't think that Florian Wirtz and Ekitike can do that schedule. So let's take Florian Wirtz and Ekitike out of the squad temporarily. Yeah. Let's say they can play 1 game a week. We literally don't have a squad.
No, we don't. It's too thin. We need to go inside players.
It's far too thin.
It is far too thin, but also the ones we do have in the squad, half of them feel like risks. And some feel risks because they're young, or some feel like risks because the manager has decided, I don't want to play them. I don't trust these players and I don't play them. So again, the squad we had wasn't really a squad when you look at it. It was a good squad on paper, and we all thought that. But when you look back going like Chiesa, Rio, Robertson, Endo, you don't trust any of them. So apart from League Cup games, he ain't going to play them. He's made that abundantly clear, which I do think is a little bit of cut your nose off to spite your face. As in, and listen, we've had this in the past where we've had squads that we've gone, looks a bit thin, we could do a bit more. But at least our other manager would play some of these players. If it meant we had to play inexperienced players, we had to play inexperienced players, and he found a way of making it work. This manager seems to go down the different route, which is, I'm only going to play the players I trust, but then eventually we're going to be sat there going, they're all fucking injured, now you're going to throw a load of lads in you don't trust, and they all know you don't trust them.
They don't. It's not that they don't. It's not even that he has players that he doesn't trust. Which, I mean, is let's talk about Endo and Chiesa in that bag. But you're talking about the rest of the players on the bench being players that have almost no Premier League experience.
But they're coming in cold.
They're coming in cold, but they're also children.
That's a big issue.
You're also kind of giving them a double whammy. So you're asking children to take up this role. And for me, I think that's so incredibly irresponsible. I think that whether it's Rio, I think Rio's entire development is being disrupted by this season by having him be this sort of pseudo left winger that's not actually coming on and playing. And I think it's extremely irresponsible to treat Rio the way that we've been treating him. But I don't see this stopping anytime soon. So like the idea that we have players coming back, we don't. Like we don't have players coming back that are going to bolster this squad. Like you have Endo, who might come back maybe in a week or two. He doesn't play. You have maybe Ekitike back in a few weeks, a few days. I don't know. I'm not sure. But he's going to have to be managed. The rest of them are out long term. They're out for basically the whole season. So for me, this is a critical moment. Like
this is a big week. This week coming up is a big week because if you don't start seeing movement this week on deals,
you're not seeing
then you're not going to see any deals done this month. And we've seen this so many times before. How many times has Liverpool introduced a player to play in the third round of the FA Cup that were signed in the January window? If we're going to be signing anyone, it will be this week. And it might just be a case of they'll just go out and go boom, boom. There you go.
That would be lovely.
But it needs to happen. If it doesn't happen, and we don't get Champions League football on the back, and it will be because it'll be on the back of this. It'll be on the back of not investing in the squad in January. You're going
And
to
also
have players.
persisting with, they've decided to persist with slot, which is part of it as well.
Well,
on top of,
yeah, I get that. I've seen a
so
lot of
if you are going to persist, I think you can do either or. I think you can persist with slot and give him reinforcements, or you can hope for some sort of new manager bounce. I don't think you can do both.
Well, I don't care. I mean, I've seen all the slot out stuff in the chat, and
Yeah, that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
I get it, but here's the thing: I don't care who the manager is. Whoever the manager is, that's the squad that's available to him without signings. They ain't doing any better. It's not a case. You might pick up a couple of results here and there, but the numbers in the squad aren't enough. I think that they'll take the FA Cup a lot more seriously than they did last year. There's enough gap between the games and between the FA Cup game and the.
Well, let me read you the FA Cup starting lineup, just because we talked about it.
Yeah, we did.
So I'm not reading it to you. I'm kind of reading it to everyone else. Yeah. So last year we lost against Plymouth. The starting lineup was Kelleher. I think we can easily put Marmadashvili in there. Joe Gomez, Endo, Kwanzaa, Simicast were our back line. Then our midfield five, for lack of a better term, was Chiesa, Nioni, Elliott, McConnell, Diaz, and Jota.
Yeah.
So it wasn't exactly children. We lost that game. It was a loss to a penalty, and I get that. But we struggled to... You said to me that we win that game in the middle of the park. And to a degree, I agree. Yeah. However, we couldn't score for love nor money in that game.
And you look at every game is won and lost in midfield. That's not breaking news. But you put that level of experience, and bear in mind, a year ago, they were a lot further back in their development as well. It was almost like taking what Klopp did with the League Cup, with that group of kids, and saying, yeah, I can do that too, and I can take the gamble. What Arne Slot didn't realise is going away to a side in the Championship is different. It is just different. It's not the Eredivisie. It's not like playing go-ahead Eagles. These sides that are playing in the Championship play with each other week in, week out. A draw against Liverpool, that's the biggest game of their lives for a lot of these players.
It's also a back five.
Yeah, but they will throw the kitchen sink at everything. So you need experience. Throwing Endo in at centre back, it's almost assuming we're going to end up with the majority of the ball, and you can have a luxury of playing Endo at centre back. And a lot of those players that came in for that game were coming in cold. I think it was Chiesa's first start. He'd been there.
Diaz wasn't coming in cold. No, Jota wasn't coming in cold.
Yeah, Diaz and
Elliott was not.
Diaz, Jota. Elliott was. Elliott wasn't playing much. He was coming off the bench the odd time, but he wasn't really starting. And I suppose Diaz, Jota, and then the way they'll look at it is like, why am I playing with the kids? What have I done to you? Why are you picking on me? Kind of stuff. It's like, I think he has to go with it semi-seriously and put out a not full strength, obviously, but I think he'll have to go with.
You can rest Ekitike and Wirtz, but still play.
You can play
McAllister, Gravenberch, and Jones.
You can play Kanati and Virgil, one each. You can play one half and the other half.
Yeah, I think you have Nioni that comes in. He plays a midfield role. You have Rio that comes in. You have Robertson and whoever's out of favor at that point, Bradley or Frimpong, it doesn't matter. But you do have to take that seriously. You have to, because we're out of other competitions.
I think you could play Bradley and Frimpong in that game purely simply because look at the amount of football they've missed.
That's fine.
They're not exactly running to the ground. It's the middle of the park is where you'd have a problem because.
I mean, if he throws this game, I don't know what.
No, he can't.
I don't know what the media is going to say.
Oh, they'll crucify him.
Yeah,
they'll crucify him. And the thing is, you can look at and then the other thing you got to look at. There's not exactly a dearth of serious managerial talent out there that you go. Here's the keys to the castle. I trust you.
That's the conversation that Chris and I were having because Chris has obviously made it clear that.
Oh, I think, he's on.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that, you don't think that Slot is good enough, I guess, for lack of a better term.
I just can't see him turning it around. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to be sat here next season going, do you know what? I got that wrong. He was, it's just a shit season. He turned it round and we're all brilliant. And do you know what? If he is, I'll be fucking made up. because that's what you always want manager. I just haven't seen enough since this season to turn it round, to show signs that it's getting better. It just, so to me, we look like we're playing like we did when we lost 6 in a row. Yes, we're getting results, but I don't think we're playing well. Some of that is the squad, but I'm at that point going, I just can't seem to turn around. But on the flip side, I then looked up, go, well, who realistically is available as a manager? And everyone,
I'm like, do you want Maresca? That's kind of what's available.
Yeah, they all feel like massive risks. There isn't one where I've gone like, as a stand-up candidate, go get it. I know someone in the chat will say Alonso. Alonso, if he left Madrid,
they think they just won 5-1. He's not leaving Madrid.
No, that's what I mean. But that was the dream.
He's not leaving Madrid.
Alonso might leave Madrid.
Ancelotti has not given up on managing Brazil. He's taken Brazil to the World Cup.
And neither is Nagelsmann.
Nagelsmann is taking Germany to the World Cup. He is not leaving Germany.
You're not going to get Tuchel away from England.
Not a whole.
You're not going to get Pochettino away from the USA. I think that's actually it's a really interesting conversation, maybe for a different show. But the fact that there's a lot of young, semi-top tier managers that are managing into a World Cup.
But do you look at the guy at Brighton? Do you look at the guy at Bournemouth? Do you look and that's what you're looking at now?
Yeah.
Are
you looking at
Glasner? Are you looking at Fabregas?
But all of them feel just as big.
There isn't a Jurgen Klopp at Dortmund.
I'm sorry, Davey. We're not going to take Eddie Howe.
No, Davey. There is, but what I'm saying is, there's not.
Davey, you'll get back.
Wishful thinking. I mean, I know that there's a link there with Hughes, so please don't start going down that road.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, what I'm saying is, there's not a Jurgen Klopp at Dortmund type manager out there at the moment that you'd say, "Fuck me, I would love him to be managing us."
Well, when we got rid of Rodgers, the talk was it was Ancelotti or Klopp. So you kind of sat there going, "Well, whichever one we get, that's a step. That's a quality step up." They have different ways of going around it. But you know what? Either one, you've got like, it's a step up in what we've got as a manager.
Look at Chelsea.
And either one.
Chelsea are looking at Liam Rosenior to come in because
they're going to take him because he's already under their umbrella.
He's within their group, and he's a good coach. And that's what he is. He's a good, calm coach, but he's a coach.
Like they did look at De Zerbi, but De Zerbi's really happy where he is.
Yeah. So
he's also. I think we might go from one extreme to the other.
I'm not super happy with De Zerbi and the way that he's handled Greenwood. So that's a whole kind of different kettle of fish.
I mean, someone said Javi. I think he's
again. He's like a distance makes the heart grow fonder kind of situation where I don't actually think he handled Barcelona that well. Emery's a great coach, but at the same again, this is a whole different show. I think we should probably save this for
that's the challenge we're in.
Middle of the week.
Well, that's the challenge we're in. We can all say, I'm going to put words in your guys' mouths, but I don't think any of us are particularly happy with Slot and how he's handled this season. Some of it is beyond. Some of it isn't. Some of it is beyond his control. Some of it, I think, it is in his control. He hasn't handled it very well, and it doesn't feel like he's going to do much better. But honestly, I'm sat there also going, "Fucking hell! If we got rid of him though, I'm going to scream."
I think it's less likely.
Whoever you brought in,
honestly, I think it's less likely that they fire Slot than it is that they bring in reinforcements. If that makes sense. So
I think,
and I don't think it's very likely that they bring in reinforcements either. But I think it was Jono that put in the chat that FSG have a history of giving their managers time even when they're not doing well.
Yeah.
So Alex Cora with the Red Sox has done awful. And they insisted on giving him more and more and more time, despite the fact that the fans said it's absolutely time to go. The results are shocking. It doesn't matter. If they think that it's the right person for the job, they will stick with the person for the job. And they don't care. They do not give a shit what fans say. I will tell you over and over and over again. Like John Henry has sat down with Red Sox fans and listened to their case, and he doesn't give a shit. He sold their most valuable player because he kicked up a fuss, which I kind of thought was going to happen with Mo Salah. But that's the way that they roll. They have their own kind of one-track mind. So if you're going to scream and yell on Twitter, trust me, they don't care. They really don't. We have to just hope that they're going to see the light and maybe sign someone, because I don't think that they're going to get rid of Slot. They're going to, I assume they're going to give him till the rest of the year.
I think he's got to start not making noise, but behind the scenes, he's got to start asking for players.
I think so. And I think he's done it subtly.
He's got to start making his case to say, look, we are going to play these players through red zones. They're going to get injured. You have to give me more tools to be able to do this job. All right. And at the end of the day, if they don't, then he's got every right to turn around at the end of the season when he gets the bullet and say, look, I asked for help. They said no. What do you want me to do? I'm not a miracle worker. This is a game that's played by players, but you have to give me enough players to be able to do it. And
I think they also need to give him a set piece coach, because our set pieces sucked today again. So there's a few things, I don't know. There's a few things that I think they can do.
There was a question in the chat, which is a fair question. And I understood where they were coming from, which was if we think the manager's head's on the chopping block.
I don't think it is.
It
feels like it should be, but I don't think it is.
Why would they invest players in it? And whether you think it is or isn't, I don't think his head's on the chopping block. One, because I think he'll get to the summer, and I think that's been agreed for a while. Even if his head was on the chopping block, the structure Liverpool put in is you're a head coach. So the idea is the coach is like a plug and play. You take the coach out, you put a new coach in. The actual overall plan, structure of the squad and how Liverpool are going to go going forward, that's what
it's separate from Slot. So Slot doesn't actually hold that much responsibility or responsibility. Like,
it's very European.
Kind of.
Nearly all the teams you order this, you brought in and go, that's your squad. You can ask for a certain style of player and we'll consider it, but ultimately we give you work.
Yeah.
That's what Slot is paid to do. So ultimately, I
just don't think it's happening. I think that the whole conversation is sort of a waste of space in terms of he's not going to get the. I personally, I just don't think he's going to get this. He's not going to get the sack in the middle of this season where they. That FSG approached this season knowing it could have gone one of two ways. These players could have hit the ground running, or it could have been a write-off in terms of transition. It seems like from everything they're saying that they know that it's going to be a transition at this point in time. Like there's really nothing we can do to salvage away from the transition. The one thing that I said the other day, I'll say it again, it's a World Cup year. If you're going to make it a transition, make it a transition this year only. Don't make it a transition over the summer when you need an additional 6 players. You can bring in 2 of those players now, make the load, whether it's of this manager or a new manager, slightly less, because you're not going to have the time on the training pitch to implement as many tactics as you'd like. So that's just one thing I'll say.
To Eustace's point here, Eustace is making a point here. Slot's on a 3-year contract as a coach. He's halfway through the deal. Why back him if you aren't re-signing him? You're not backing the manager.
You're backing the club.
You're backing the club.
Like
the club
you
will
have
sign
to back
players
the project.
Yeah.
Slot is not the project. So unlike Klopp being the project and the face of Liverpool, the whole purpose of this entire new structuring of the team is that if Slot fails, it doesn't fall on him. That they can get rid of Slot and that they can put someone else in play and have it be pretty seamless. That's the whole point of having him.
Yeah. Unfortunately, what it does is it produces a style of football that tends to be generic. That they'll replace Slot.
It's the same reason that Chelsea are having the problem that they're having right now.
And in fairness, it's the complete opposite to what Manchester United did for that time from Ferguson up until now, where they kept chopping and changing managers with the next high-profile name that came out, who wanted their own type of players to play their own type of way. And then they sacked them. Then they're left with a bunch of players on high wages that they can't use because the new guy doesn't want to use them because they don't fit with his style. They're looking to build the club into a way that the squad will be able, it will have variety and flexibility, but at the minute it's on literally had one window. You need another window now to add to it, and you need another goal in the summer to start turning the players out who need to be phased out, to bring in players, more players that he will use, the likes of your Endos, the likes of Chiesa, the likes of Andy Robertson, the likes of Joe Gomez, that those players are actually phased out and replaced with players whose careers are ahead of them, not behind them. So you cannot ignore this window as an opportunity to add to the squad. I mean, look, we normally do the, man of the match, all that nonsense at the end of this. I don't know if you guys want to do it or not, but
we should for the sake of continuity.
For the sake of continuity.
Chris, I'm going to give you the first go.
Bradley, man of the match.
Okay.
I thought he was our best player. I actually thought he defended really well. He got the breakthrough with getting the equaliser, and I thought just in general, I thought he was good. Most improved honorable mention. I'll say Kirkus. I actually thought Kirkus left side. I thought both fullbacks had quite decent games. I think the issue was through the middle of the park. Could do better. McAllister thought he was an absolute passenger today. Absolute passenger. And I feel like, unfortunately, we said that too many times with McAllister, sadly. But yeah, I thought he was a passenger today.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear him talk midweek about, sort of where he felt like the team was. I don't know. I mean, he seems like he's fit, but he also seems like he's struggling. So he's a bit of a puzzle. Kev, I'm going to give you the same question.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with it. Connor Bradley did well, but it's a fucking low bar. Honourable mention, I thought Curtis did all right.
Yeah,
the fact that he was stuck out on the left it's a position he hasn't played for a long time. He doesn't have the pace to burn anybody. He's got quick feet, but there's not a lot he can do from that position. It's like
I think it took away his deep running.
Yeah, he wasn't helped.
Yeah, it took away some of his best assets.
Could do better, Virgil. Look, I thought leadership-wise, a voice on the pitch. You have to be barking orders with a few minutes to go. Yeah, Virgil has to see this danger. If the long throw isn't coming, someone get out there to block that, or to be out there for the danger that this might happen. And he's a captain of the club. He's the most senior player on the pitch. He has to be a stronger voice when we get 2-1 up and we're about to go and get 3 points to see it out. I mean, ultimately,
Kev, how do you feel about Virgil in like a captain's capacity? Because we heard maybe 2 weeks ago that part of Slot and his management team, part of their decision was to disband the leadership group and to put the focus solely on the captain and the vice captain. So that would be Robertson and Virgil in this role. So instead of kind of diffusing it amongst 3 or 4 players the way that Klopp did, Slot has decided to purely put it pretty much on Virgil's head. And obviously Robertson plays a role in that as well. But do you feel like there's too much pressure on Virgil? There's a few people in the chat that are talking about how Virgil's not a good captain.
Look, he's savagely experienced, but I don't think he's vocal. I don't think he's a Jordan Henderson, a James Milner on the pitch. I don't think you'd ever say that he's the manager's voice on the pitch. But at the same time, I've seen plenty of centre-backs over the years. Some of the best centre-backs as captains have been real voices that you would hear everywhere on the pitch. I don't think he's that. But at the same time, he commands a lot of respect within the squad and within the game. And it was interesting. I was reading the article that came out with Leone, and it's the unseen stuff. After he got injured, Virgil made a point of meeting with him, talking with him, because he knows what it's like to be that centre-back who's going to be out for a long time. He knows what it feels like. He probably does a lot more stuff off the pitch than we realise. But I think it's a lack of leadership in the middle of the park, a lack of a voice in the middle of the park is what we're missing as well. I think, look, it's underrated the role that Jordan Henderson had in these years at the club. Was never the best player, but I think you look at the football through COVID, and you remember the amount of time he was like a commentator. It was like listening to a commentator on the pitch talking players through games, and I think this group missed that. I think this group needs that. I think this is why I look at the window and think I don't care if we sign the next up and coming 2021 22-year-old. I'd love to sign a couple of experienced players.
Who's the next Milner?
Goretzka's moving.
But that's the question. Who's the next Milner? Because I actually think that's what we're missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
like,
you go back
the
in years
on the pitch, especially at the end of games.
Yeah, you go back and you look at Gary McAllister was one.
Yeah,
Gerrard will always reference him. Didi Hamann coming in when he did. But I think Milner, Henderson, those type of players, they don't grow on trees. They're actually very few and far between. You know, and
I think Declan Rice is probably the closest to a Henderson that you've got.
Yeah, there. I just look at. I still see there's still experience. So I look at if Goretzka is leaving Bayern Munich in this window, and you want someone to come in and stiffen up your midfield, who's an experienced player, who's technically a really good footballer, and who's got a gob on him, and he has got a gob on him, then I wouldn't be adverse to signing someone like him on a loan. You know, there is experienced players out there that wouldn't set the world on fire, but will come in and be able to do a job now. You know, that you might get 18 months and then you move them on. Yes, it's an expensive mistake that we're trying to rectify. If you go and sign someone like that, or go and have to spend big wages on a senior player to come in, Ruben Neves' names gets thrown around a lot, you know, coming in from the Saudi league. Yeah, you see him when he plays for Portugal. He's a bit of a midfield. He plays in a deeper line in midfield, and he can dictate play. Isn't going to set the world alight, but you stick him in the middle of the park, and he can pass, and he's vocal, and he knows the league. I don't care if we sign someone like that for a year, 2 years, because you have to give if you think Trey Leone is going to have a future at the club, you have to be able to not block his way with signing a 20, 21, 22-year-old to come in, and then you're stuck with 7, 8, 9 midfielders down the line. So,
especially if you're going to have transitions of coaches, like you need players that are on the field that are able to carry over certain levels, I guess, for lack of a better term. Yeah. You need players that are going to be able to instruct everyone else, that are going to keep the standards up. And I'm not saying that Virgil can't do that, but I think that was what Henderson and Milner brought to this team. That they were standard setters, they were coaches on the field. And as much as Virgil leads by example in terms of aura, I'm not 100% sure in terms of like his vocal abilities, if he leads in that way. But yeah, it's just something to think about. You know, I think I'm going to agree with you guys. I think Bradley was quite good. I think that Wirtz was also quite good. I'm going to give my could do better to Szoboszlai, because I forgot that he was on the pitch for most of that game.
He's not been right since he's come back from
He's not been right, and I don't know if that's his position that he's playing. He's playing definitely more as a 10 and less as honestly, the poor guy has been played in every single position outside of goalkeeper. But for me, I forgot he was on the pitch. So yeah, it's just something to work on. I think we've talked this to death at this point. You know, we've got Chelsea City on the last 6 minutes of extra time. You have City that look like they're going to go on to the win there. So I guess the long story short is that we haven't really lost any ground in the top 4 race. You know, we're fortunate in that the teams that are currently chasing us are, you know, they're quite poor. You had United that weren't able to get any sort of ground on us. It looks like Chelsea aren't going to get any ground on us either. So we're safe for the time being, but we do have a big game coming up. Kev, what are your kind of final thoughts before we leave?
Just pray to God that no one reports with an injury tomorrow. Look, see, the difference is when you come in to play against a side like Arsenal, you're almost going to play Arsenal and you know they're going to have the ball. And it's always the way when you go to the Emirates, they do have the ball. So you can set up that way. You can set up defensively. You know, your mindset is different when you're going to play a side like Arsenal. That you're going to be, I think they'll be more up for it defensively. And it's the games that we're coming up against the back to 5-4-1s I'm more worried about, because I think we're really struggling to break them down. The sides like Arsenal will look to make the game, and wouldn't be the worst. It wouldn't be the biggest shock in the world for us to go and get a result there. I genuinely think we can go and get a result there. Don't see why not. I think the one thing that you look at the games that we're conceding, there are mistakes that are fixable on the pitch if you're alive to the situation, if you're set up properly, you know. And I don't think we're getting ripped apart from a defensive point of view. You know what I mean? If you're set up in a defensive shape, we're not being ripped apart from that defensive shape. But today we were an attacking mindset, looking to get forward. And we got done by a pass around the corner and weren't alive to a short throw.
Chelsea have just scored.
Ooh, fair play.
Interesting.
Oh, dear.
Oh, okay. Well, I think that's Enzo Fernandez that just scored that goal in the 93rd minute to equalize against Chelsea. So, again, doesn't really make any ground on us, but does take away from the title challenge, I guess, for City, which is...
Oh, look hard. Oh, well, Dallas was in the chat earlier on the wind-up. God bless him.
Yes, I did see that.
Yeah, look, one thing I want to say about... just because Dallas was in on the wind-up, and fair play to him. The one thing I'd say about Arsenal, right? Arsenal are in a situation now where this is 6 years into their rebuild, and they're fresh out of excuses now. They're fresh out of excuses. City are their closest challenger, and they're dropping points. Arsenal are by hook or by crook getting over the line in games, getting wins. They have no excuses left. So
Also,
what happens if they balls it up this time?
Also, Arsenal have had a lead like this over City. I'm pretty certain they did a few years ago.
Yeah.
You know, there will be an expectation on them at some point.
Oh, look, they're fresh out of They're fresh out of chances to blow this league down.
Before we leave, I do want to get to quotes because there are a few people that are looking for quotes, and I'm
by the way,
not trying to overshadow those completely. Chris, go ahead. What do you want to say?
Thought you're going to get yourself banned if you say bring Christian Poulsen in. That's just mean. That's just absolutely mean. I think Kev remembers those days, don't you, Kev?
Oh,
yeah. Fucking hell.
There were the days where you went out on a Saturday afternoon and said, "Oh, Liverpool are playing. All right, I'll call back later."
I'll call back later, yeah. Oh, Konchesky started. Oh, I'm definitely going to call back later. Fuck me.
All right. Well, with that nice, pleasant thought in mind, I'm going to read you guys the quotes. You guys can react to them, and then we're going to get out of here because we've been here for a while. So I'm going to start with Florian Wirtz because he was interviewed by Sky Sports. He said, "We're not satisfied at all. We need points, and we wanted 3 points today. We know there's no easy game in this league. The intensity we brought on the pitch in the second half was much better. We didn't press them well in the first half, but in the second half, it was much better. I was sure that it was offside, so I didn't even celebrate. I was happy that I scored, but I'd rather take the 3 points. The strike, there's nothing to say. It was unbelievable. You cannot save that ball. Normally, it doesn't go like this. The actions before could have been better. It was from a throw-in, so we could have been better. Again, we are in a difficult situation because we drew 2 times. It's not what we want. We want more. We have to get better, but it's still a process." So that was Florian Wirtz. And then Arne Slot was interviewed. He said, "For the players we had available, I think we played a decent game. We always want more. We were one incredible strike away from a good result. I think we were unlucky at halftime that we were 1-0 down. It was the only chance, the only moment that we conceded." And then Cody Gakpo spoke a little bit. He said, "The moment I sat down on the bench, they scored. It's disappointing for us. We fought very hard in the second half. We dominated at moments and tried to create chances to get through. At the end, I scored in minute 95 and they scored in minute 97. A wonderful goal to be fair, but unlucky and unfortunate." Cody Gakpo continues, "This is a moment that can happen in a game. I was just sitting down, so I did not see the moments before. I just saw him take a touch and shoot the ball into the top corner. I think if you're going to analyze the game, maybe we should have scored more goals or defended the 2 goals better. In the end, we should do much better. There were moments that we showed how good we were, but it is up to us to stay consistent and put in overall better performances. I'm sure the wins will come again." Arne Slot was then interviewed again. He said, "I don't know what it is, but we concede incredible goals. We don't concede chances, I don't think. But of course, we want to create even more from the football possession that we have." And then Marco Silva was interviewed at the very end. He said, "I think we did control the game very well. Not with the ball like we like to do, but we did it very well. They overloaded a lot of areas and we covered them very well. The load with all the games is incredibly tough. We scored 2 brilliant goals and we had a great chance with Harry Wilson to score at 2-1. Let's see. There's a few more. Gosh, there's a lot of quotes. Okay. Arneslot continues. I'm just going to keep going. So many points have disappeared for us. Of course, it's frustrating. It's also frustrating that the first chance of the game goes in. That is also not the first time. Then they had a second chance when Allison was out of his goal and they chipped it to the bar. For the rest, I think it's quite good, but if you play an away game and barely concede a chance, that's good. Every time it's just not enough. We relied on the whole season on good and bad luck, and that is something that we have to improve. We have to improve so that a shot in the last minute does not immediately lead us to losing points. That is what we are trying to do, but we have not done that yet. The players are giving everything they have. I have to keep that in mind, and I have to keep them available. Alexander Isak is out, and I have to overload or play Hugo Moore, a player who has never played in the Premier League. You have to manage that. We still have 11 very good players on the pitch. It's not only for us, but many teams. They don't create chances every game. It's not perfect, but at least we've created a few more chances today than last week. I think that's about it. There's a few more, but I think that's the main kind of.
We had 2 shots on target.
Well, he seems to think that was an improvement.
They had 2 shots on target. We had 2 shots on target. The game finished a draw. It's the biggest load of bollocks I've heard coming out of him in a long time. But at the same time, he can't throw the players under the bus because he's right in what he said. He's flogging them as much as he can because there is no alternative. The alternatives that he has available to him, he won't play Chiesa. He won't, for whatever reason. Robertson is there to rotate with Kerkez.
Robertson is the new Gomez.
Yeah, well, Robertson
until Gomez is back to 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Robertson isn't the problem. He won't play Rio, and Trainioni is never really mentioned in any meaningful way. So I just look at what the options that are available to him with that context, and it's like I understand his point of view that he doesn't want to lambast them too much in the press. He won't do that anyway. It's not his style. But at the same time, you have to live in some basic reality that, we created 10 efforts on goal and we got 2 on target. Leno has had a really comfortable day against us.
There was one big chance in that entire game. So, yeah, it was 2 shots on target, eight total for Liverpool, but two big shots on target.
Yeah, and we scored from both. We scored from the 2 big chances that we had, really.
Yeah, but they had 2 chances as well. So,
exactly.
I mean, it's not like we silenced them.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting to hear him say, I have to keep that in mind. I have to keep him available. I have to overload or play Hugo Moore. Like, I think it's interesting that he's talking about overloading his players.
That's him telling
I think
Edwards,
that's him telling FSG that he needs help.
I need a striker.
Yeah, I genuinely think that's about as blunt as you're going to get from him.
Here's the thing, right? From Liverpool in 4th, we're still in 4th on 34.
Chelsea, like I said, I mean, the Chelsea City game just finished 1-1, so they didn't gain any ground.
But from Palace in 14th to us in 4th is 7 points.
I mean, if Fulham had won today, for example, we would have been 3 points away from Fulham.
Exactly. So the league is it's still the middle of the league from 4th down to 14th, even down as far as 14th. Yes, 14th is 27. It's really condensed. Anything can happen in that block. I think the disappointing thing is that we've picked up 2 draws that we should have had 2 wins in our last 2 games. That would have put us on 38 points with a 7-point gap to 5th place Chelsea.
What's the gap right now?
It's 3 points with the same goal difference, with worse goal difference. So Chelsea have 7 goal advantage in goal difference. So what I mean, the content, the result of the 2 draws is a 4 points gap that would have been there, and you're within striking distance of City and Villa, who are on 42 points. And at the minute, that's the difference between us sitting there looking up rather than looking down. At the minute, we're looking down, and we're looking at what's behind us, and it's really getting hot under the collar at the minute as to the form that we're in, the lack of, I think, the ultimate thing is you look at it is the lack of chances we're creating in games, in every game that we've played. I think you're counting a handful of chances in games, whereas we're used to creating 7, 8, 10 good, decent chances. You know, I don't know. I don't. I honestly do not. I almost don't want to see Ekatike against Arsenal because I genuinely don't want him risked. If they're not going to be bringing in a striker, manage him and leave him alone until Burnley and get that hamstring absolutely okay.
I mean, you're talking about potentially having to rest Verts and Ekatike against Arsenal.
Fine, I'd rather do that than risk them pulling.
It'll be a fucking cricket score.
It won't, but it won't because you'll go in with a mindset of having to defend. You go in with a different mindset of having to defend, of putting a low block like you did with Inter Milan, playing 2 banks of 4 or a 4 and a 5. And you go in with that mindset of a defensive mindset going into it. It's not like you're going against Leeds and Fulham where you have to make the game, where you have to go on the attack and overload and make the game. Arsenal will do that for you. And you play I think that's why they're an easier type of game to set up for, because they know the threat and they'll have a fear of playing Arsenal and they know what to expect. It's not the unknown. And I think we're so struggling to make chances as it is. Having this game against Arsenal is probably the easiest thing to focus the minds than anything you could come up against at the minute.
Well, Daniel in the chat says, "How is this still going live after 2 hours?" Sorry. Sorry.
We get into this thing where we just like
we are trying to kind of have therapy for ourselves as much as therapy for everyone else. We should wind it down though. That being said,
that's fair.
You know, it's difficult. There's a few people like Archie in the chat. It's like, you know, be positive. I'm having a really hard time being positive right now. You know, I'm having a really hard time, especially after seeing this where Slot has traveled and gotten an MRI. You know, if players are getting MRIs, if Florian Wirtz's father is emailing the national team, if these things are happening, I mean, I just pray over the course of the next couple of days that FSG kind of pull their head out and just give him something to work with. Because if you're not going to give Slot something to work with, you're basically just signing his death warrant. And it might be signed already. And it might just be sort of a holding pattern until the end of the season. But that being said, I worry about the health and safety of our players kind of long term, because, you know, anyways, you can never put a time limit on how long therapy takes. Yeah, that's a valid point. I wish we could charge the rate that my therapist charges. That would be fantastic. If all of you could pay us the rate that my therapist charges.
Speaking of which,
that would be fantastic.
Patreon,
there is a Patreon link right over there.
It does help with therapy sessions.
It does.
It's,
you know, it's something that we do.
We'll get back to it.
We've done a really kind of good job getting started with Patreon, but we're really starting to kind of kick into gear again, especially after New Year and everything like that. There's some great shows on there. We love Good Process. We love our retro shows. We love our kind of review shows where we really go into depth about, you know, whether it's PGMOL and all of the mistakes they make, or Slot and the mistakes that he makes, or anything. So there's a lot of different shows on there that we're allowed to use clips and things that we're not allowed to use on YouTube. You may have seen recently that we're throwing a few kind of teasers on YouTube. So if you're not a paying subscriber to Patreon, you might kind of just click into those and just see, oh, well, maybe that's what's going on over there. Maybe you find something you like. So yeah, it's just an option. It does help with the show. Another thing that helps at the show is our NordVPN sponsorship, which is down below. If you perhaps want to watch something other than Liverpool and maybe watch, you know, like a show that's on Netflix in the USA or something like that, NordVPN is great for that. They do have options if you decide you want, you know, a little bit of therapy that doesn't involve football playing. So they're down there as well. They're great for sticking with us. I don't know why they do it, but they are there as well. For everyone else that's in the chat that has stuck with us for 2 hours, you know, fair play to you, 100%. I think there's 190 of you watching, and we have just sat here and complained about Liverpool for 2 hours. So absolute fair play. Chris, before we go, I'm going to give you kind of final word. Kev, I'm going to come to you next. So yeah, final words about today, about give us something to be hopeful for. I don't know. Try.
Fingers crossed fingers crossed it gets slightly better. We bring some players in and we go on a nice run in the European Cup.
Okay.
And we're all sat here with egg on our face going, do you know what? Slot was right. And we
Yeah,
can all sit
watch
here
us
going, "We got it wrong."
win the Champions League, and we're all gonna look back on this as a point of weakness.
I'll be fucking made up if I'm sat here going, yeah, you got that wrong. He was brilliant. Cool. I can't wait,
All right.
but fingers crossed.
In a few weeks' time, I'm going scouting hotels in Budapest. So if you want recommendations, just hit me up in the Telegram, and I will give you good recommendations for the hotels in Budapest in a couple of weeks' time. Trust me.
All right, Kev, it's up to you. You're going to scout an entire Talkin Kop commune for us to live in.
Absolutely.
When we get to the Champions League. So it's up to you. No pressure whatsoever. But I expect like a penthouse looking over, the Hagia Sophia. That would be fantastic.
Calm down a small. This is a budget vacation, a one-time only gig. So.
Oh, I'm just kidding. All right. Well, on that fantastic note, that lofty aspiration of maybe the Champions League in the future, let's just leave it at that. We're going to have plenty of post-match reaction to this. We're going to have pre-match reaction, or pre-match whatever the hell you want to call it, in front of the Arsenal game. My brain's gone, but I appreciate all of you in the chat. I appreciate Kev. I appreciate Chris. I appreciate everyone that's thrown in any sort of comments or anything like that. But we're going to call it quits for now. Liverpool somehow managed to get out of Craven Cottage with a single point after a fantastic late goal from Cody Gakpo and an even more fantastic goal from Harrison Reed. I think that's it. Kev, I think you should take us out of here before we stay here for another hour. But
okay. Bye, guys.
All right.